Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Pittsburgh Law Enforcement Center for tonight's forum focusing on the upcoming race for Pittsburgh City Commission. My name is Blake Benson. I'm with the Pittsburgh Area Chamber of Commerce. I'll serve as the moderator for tonight's forum. Joined tonight by Jonathan Riley with the Morning Sun, who will serve as our proctor and will screen all of our questions. A big thank you to our candidates for joining us tonight. Election Day is coming up on November 2nd. We have 7 candidates vying for 3 spots on the Pittsburgh City Commission. The top 2 vote getters will get a 4-year term. The third top vote getter will get a 2-year term. So we know serving on the Pittsburgh City Commission is not an easy job. Running is not an easy job. And we appreciate all of you being willing to do that and being willing to serve the residents of our community. Thank you to all of those who joined us in person tonight and those that are watching tonight on the city's public access channel and maybe watching on the city's YouTube channel live or maybe in a few days or weeks. Very special thank you to the City of Pittsburgh and the Law Enforcement Center, the Law Enforcement Center staff for allowing us to have this in this facility. It's a beautiful room, and it also gives us the ability to, again, broadcast that for those that are not able to be here. As I mentioned, this is a forum. It's not a debate, and so just to let you know what the what the format will be tonight, each of the candidates will be allowed 2 minutes for an opening statement. We will then go into maybe 2 prepared questions that the candidates received in advance. What I would encourage those in the audience to do, if you have a question that you would like to ask, we have pads and pens in the back of the room. I would ask you to write your question down. Mainly the 2 rules that we have regarding our questions from the audience is they have to be fair and they have to be applicable to all 7 candidates. If it does not meet that criteria, it will not be asked. If you have a question, write that on the paper and then submit it to Jonathan. He will screen it to make sure it's a fair question and pass it on to me. And we'll get to as many of those questions as we can with 7 candidates in an hour. I'm not sure how many we'll be able to get to, but we will get to as many as possible. To help you keep track of time, candidates, when you have 30 seconds left, I will hold up a yellow card. Certainly don't mean to distract you or disrupt you or anything like that. I just want to let you know where you are time-wise. If you see the dreaded red card, that means you are out of time. So I would ask, if you see the red card, please go ahead and stop because we want to be fair again to all the candidates and make sure that everyone gets equal time. So without any further ado, any questions regarding the format? Okay. Also want to make sure that everyone here in person and watching on TV tonight knows that when the candidates arrived, they randomly drew numbers to determine our seating order. This will also be the order that we will go in terms of them answering questions. So Mr. Height will give his opening statement first, then Mr. O'Malley will answer the first prepared question first, and so on, again, so that we can be as fair as possible. But again, the seating was completely random. That was done as the candidates arrived here tonight. So with that, Mr. Height, you drew the number 1, so we'll give you 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you, Blake. Thank you to you and the Chamber as well for hosting this, putting this event together. Thank you all for being here and watching online or on TV. My name is Stu Height. I was born and raised here in Crawford County. I'm a graduate of Pittsburgh State University. I met my wife of 25 years, Amy, there. She's also a graduate of Pitt State. We have 2 children. We have a freshman at Pitt State, and then we also have a freshman in high school. So we stay busy following them around, but I have had a life of 33 years of public service and law enforcement, 30 of those at Crawford County Sheriff's Office, doing a variety of things. Most recently, 24 of those years as an investigator, so I got to see a lot of the good and also the bad of not just Crawford County, but also Pittsburgh and surrounding areas. So, I feel like I have a minor in political science, so I've always been interested in politics in an outside looking in sort of way. So after 33 years of public service, I decided, hey, maybe it's time to get involved with our community. I think Pittsburgh's a great place to live. It is, has, and always will be my home. We love this place. The people are great. We have a spirit of community like no other around. I think we all pull together and get things done when necessary, and I think it's just probably a commissioner's job to help guide that and help listen to all of our constituents. So I hope that we all have I really think it's impressive that we have 7 candidates for these 3 positions. I think that speaks volumes to the community too, that there are a lot of caring people here. But anyway, I look forward to the rest of the evening and answering questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. O'Malley, 2 minutes.
Good evening, Pittsburgh. My name is Matt O'Malley. I am a 7th generation Southeast Kansan. My ancestors immigrated here from Ireland in 1868, 8 years before Pittsburgh was even founded. My great-great-great-great-grandfather actually started one of the very first mines in all of Southeast Kansas. For the most part, the O'Malleys are known as farmers, and the McGuires, my mom's side of the family, are known as soldiers. I think what I'm most proud of is that we are the type of people who help each other. That's just how we've been raised for a long time. I am a born and raised Pittsburgh native. I attended kindergarten through high school at St. Mary's Colgan, graduated from Pitt State in 2008 with a business administration degree. I've got 2 boys. Lincoln is 4. He just started preschool at St. Mary's, and Dylan is 18 months old. And when hungry, probably the loudest child in the world. My wife Lacey and I have been married 6 years. She is a public health educator for the state, where she provides technical support for organizations who receive grants from KDHE. I work as the Director of Outreach and Development at Livewell Crawford County. I just got done with a 4-year grant where I established a group of resident leaders in Arma, Kansas, and we work together to create unique solutions to increase their community's access to healthy foods. I just started several more grants. I'm working on marijuana and alcohol prevention education for area middle and high school students, tobacco-free park policies to keep cigarettes away from our kids' playgrounds, and food donation and distribution policies for area food pantries to help sustain their work. That's a little bit about me, and it's great to be here.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. O'Malley. Mr. Fields, 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My name is Larry Fields, and I was born and reared in Pittsburgh, Kansas. I'm one of 15 children. There's 10 boys, 5 girls, 1 mom, 1 dad. We all went to Pittsburgh schools. Every one of us graduated, which made our mother very, very happy, since she only went to the 8th grade. When you're in a family that large, you learn to compromise, you learn to fight, you learn to argue, you learn a lot of things that's good for you on the street. I went to work in the 7th grade at Jones Motel, just half a mile down the street where fire station number 1 is, as a curb hop. It was a wonderful education. You learned an awful lot there. They happened to own a liquor store across the street, and you would get a note to go across and get a package, and you'd bring it back to a room, and they'd open the door about that far, and you'd get an education. One thing, you'd get $1 too, which was big money. And you always liked to get the little box because you knew you was going back in an hour or 2 and get a bigger box, and you got a bigger tip. So those were all good things to learn. I didn't go to college at Pitt State. I didn't go to college till I was 31 years old. I went to work at Kansas City Southern unloading ties out here at Centennial Street. I've always been a good worker, and I still like work. I had a good career with Kansas City Southern. When I retired, I was president of the Texas and Mexican Railway Company. I was on the board of directors of the Kansas City Southern Railway, Texas and Mexican Railway Company, KCS de Mexico, the American Association of Railroads. What those things do for you, they put you in business with business people. Big business people. They know the rights and wrongs. As I went through the various seats of the KCS, they put me in personnel and labor relations for 2 years, which I didn't want anything to do with that. But that teaches you oftentimes what not to do. And what not to do is almost as important as what to do. So I went to school when I was 31. I went to Rockhurst. I got an MBA from there. And when I got done with that, I thought I was done. But Mr. Dramus, the Dramus Parks that are all over this part of the country, said, well, I won't say what he said to me, but my little buddy, he would call me. So then I went back east for 90 days of which knife and fork and spoon to use. So my education has been good, and I appreciate it, and I'm running for re-election, and I appreciate being in Pittsburgh.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fields. Ms. McNay.
Good evening. Thank you for everyone being here. My late husband, Chris, grew up here in Pittsburgh. We moved here in 1993 to be close to family. Our sons, Alex and Kevin, are products of the Family Resource Center and USD 250 schools. I love Pittsburgh. Once I got past the fact that whenever you go out in the community, you see someone you know. But I really cherish that about our community now. I have been blessed with my employers, my past employer, Mount Carmel, now Via Christi, and my current employer, Community Health, to allow me to live my passion to serve Pittsburgh in elected positions. I served on the USD 250 school board for 16 years and obviously now 4 years on the city commission. I'm currently the director of development at Community Health, and I've spent the last 18 months working with our healthcare partners and businesses in the 7 Kansas counties that we serve to provide access to COVID testing and vaccines. Over my 28 years living here in Pittsburgh, I've worked with a lot of organizations to create systems and programs to support families. Everything I learned these past 28 years, I had the opportunity to use this past year, and that included diplomacy and flexibility and creativity and patience and listening without speaking, still working on that one, and recognizing that there are multiple solutions to a situation when everyone is willing to participate. Pittsburgh right now is in a great place. We have we're strong financially, we're strong economically. We have a unique opportunity here to learn from this past year to make ourselves even a stronger community and a strong county. And I would like the opportunity to continue doing that work. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sachs.
My name's Zach Satz. I am 32 years old. I am not a native of Pittsburgh. I am from Wichita, Kansas, born and raised. I came here 11 years ago for Pitt State education and stayed. Both my wife and I had the opportunity to go back to Wichita several times, and we decided that no, Pittsburgh is our home. And so we planted here, and we're raising 2 wonderful little children. One's 23 months old, Sophie, and the other is a month-old Gideon, and my wife has led me out for just about 2 hours, so I think we're good. No, I'm extremely excited to be running. Both of my wife and I are in education. My wife's a high school math teacher for Girard, and I'm a gifted ed teacher for Greenbush, and I'm actually a 5th-generation educator, and excited to carry on that passion, even though I, in college, decided not to go the first round with that. I'm also a location pastor here at a small church, Crosspoint Church here in Pittsburgh. We're excited. We planted the church about 3 years ago and excited to see just how God is working in Pittsburgh and how we as a small congregation can help out. I also officiate 3 different sports, football, basketball, and softball right now. I love high school sports. In fact, several of us were talking about that earlier. They've got kids in there, and I've probably reffed several of their games, hopefully on the good side. So I'm running because I want to help bring the voice back to Pittsburgh from the citizens. The last few years, the city has done some things well, and in others, I think we need to hear from the people a little bit more. Right now, not only is our country in, but our state and our city are also in some issues that regard personal freedoms, and they're being impeded on. And that's something that needs to be not to be taken lightly. You as a citizen have every right to come and put input in. I'm glad we have questions. But also you have every right for the government to be limited on what they tell you what to do. I'm running to protect these rights for the people and for the small businesses here in town. Appreciate your vote.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Mr. Nacarado, 2 minutes.
Thanks, Blake, and thank you to the Chamber as well as the Morning Sun. And I want to point out how great it is to have local ownership of the Morning Sun back. A local paper is so important to that voice of the people being heard and being informed. So excited about that. Sean Nacarado, I grew up in a little town called Minden Mines, Missouri. Many of you probably know of it. Some of you might even know, at least, or had grandparents that could tell you stories about how it used to be a thriving place. And that's the thing that I grew up with. I grew up with 2 stories. I grew up with the story of Minden Mines, Missouri, that used to be something thriving. And I also grew up the story of my great-grandfather, Alessandro, who in 1896 took the most courageous step for our family off of his Italian homeland onto a ship sailing across the Atlantic to dig sewers in Boston and eventually to end up in the promised land of Weir City, Kansas. And so I look out and I know many of you have similar stories. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that audacious humility, which sounds like a juxtaposition, but these folks who were willing to risk it all to make it better for those who came after them. And I think that we have an obligation to be stewards of that shared prosperity, of that grit, of that determination. I'm running because I'm proud of this place, and it's a place that made me. I came here for undergrad. I did my undergraduate degree at Pittsburg State University, met my wife, then went to law school, did a law degree and a master's in public administration at Mizzou. I'm back in Kansas, though, and then finished my PhD at SLU a few years ago. I'm committed to this place because those before us were committed to this place, and we have a legacy that we need to continue to uphold and advance. We're in the midst of the most exciting advancement since 1896, probably, in our community, and so I want to be part of continuing that, and I appreciate your vote. Thanks, Blake.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Nacarado. Mr. Sigley.
I'm Ron Sigley. I was born in Franklin, Kansas, actually in the old hospital in Girard, but I lived in Franklin, Kansas all my life. Went to Arma High School, subsequently to Pittsburg State University, where I was commissioned in the military. I got accepted to medical school at the University of Kansas. I went there for 4 years and subsequently entered the military for another 14 years after that. I served in both Europe, CONUS, United States, as well as was commander of a unit in Europe and subsequently a commander of a unit in Topeka. I commanded the largest hospital in the Desert Storm incursion, 400-bed hospital, 607 people. I met my wife in an Iowa farm girl, by the way, who was not happy about displacing to Kansas, although she's delighted now. We decided we didn't want to raise our children in California, so that was my last duty station. We moved to Pittsburgh, and it was the best move we could have made. I have three wonderful kids, all who have done very well. Two of them went to outside PSU. My son graduated from PSU, and they all are in jobs and doing very well. I think Pittsburgh has a unique opportunity to grow, and I think a city that doesn't grow is going to wither on the vine in the coming years. You know, we're faced with a lot of problems in this country. We are in a unique position right now. We have a good substructure. We need to increase our infrastructure. We have a good water supply. We have excellent schools. We have a very good university. I think we can grow this city. You realize that this city, since the year 1920, has only grown by 461 people. You have to go back and look at the census to see that. In the last 2 years, we've only grown by 261 people. So I think we can do a lot for this city, and I appreciate your having me here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sigley. Okay, we will now go into a couple of prepared questions that the candidates did receive in advance. And I'll remind you that the candidates have 90 seconds to answer each one of these questions. And the first prepared question will be answered first by you, Mr. O'Malley. And the question is, in your opinion, what should the city's top 3 priorities be for the next 3 years? 90 seconds.
Workforce development, housing, childcare. So childcare specifically for infants and toddlers. Both of my kids were on waiting lists for daycare for 17 months. 17 months. It is not uncommon in Pittsburgh for one of the parents to have to quit their job, stay home with the baby because there is no daycare spots available. This causes gaps in resumes. It's awful on that family's income. And frankly, that family is spending less money in the city, and so there's less local tax money generated. This absolutely has to change if we want to grow. Think about it. If you are an impressive young professional looking for somewhere to plant roots and start a family, are you going to move to a city without daycare? No. If you are considering starting a family and you already live here, are you going to stay? No, you're not. We have to make progress on childcare if we want to move forward in Pittsburgh. It is an economic issue. It is a growth issue. It is a family issue. Housing, it is a challenge to find a decent family home in Pittsburgh for under $100,000. Believe me, I know. I would like to see the city's next housing development to maybe prioritize a price point that's more reachable for the average Pittsburgh family. Also, for years, we hear about busted rental properties ruining the appearance of Pittsburgh. The next time you drive by one, think about what the inside looks like. Are the utilities running? Is it infested with bugs? Are there kids there? How are they doing in school? We've got to find ways to reach out to those people and let them know they can contact housing for help. Thank you. That was fast.
It goes by fast. It does.
Workforce development.
Yeah, it does. All right, Mr. Fields, 90
Thank you.
seconds.
A lot of that stuff is going on, and it is a national problem everywhere. Three things I'd like to see get done. One of them we've been working on for years, railroad quiet zone. What that means is when a train comes to town and it's federal law, they have to blow the whistle continuously. When you start at Rouse Street, that whistle will not stop blowing until they fully occupy the crossing at 10th Street. There is a way to get around that. It's a quiet zones. I was on the other side of the fence for 40 years opposing that stuff. Now I'm in favor of it. The railroads will go along with it, but it's got to be done. Another thing I'd like to see, and I'd really like to see this get done, there's going to be a convention center here. It's been talked about, surveys have been done. It needs to be done in the city limits of Pittsburgh downtown area. Don't go to the casino, the furthest point in the county you can go out there and build it. If I go out there, you're more than likely to go that 20 miles to Joplin, 3 times the restaurants, 3 times the hotel, 4 times, 5 times the bars. So you need it downtown. That'll help everybody. Help spend the money in Pittsburgh. Don't go out to the casino and help the casino. They got enough help. So I'd also like to see local citizens be on one of these 13 boards and bonds and commissions we have. You only have to be in the city limits to serve on a couple of them, and there's reasons, valid reasons for that. But people want to be on the boards and commissions. That's how you get input into the city. There is plenty of transparency here, but we need the citizens to participate. And you can live outside the city and be on these boards, and the city needs you and wants you on these boards and your input. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fields. Ms. McNay.
Certainly. We talk about growing our community, and we actually grew by 650 people this last census. But we cannot outgrow our infrastructure. So continuing our work on the wastewater plant and the city leaders taking advantage of this unique time where there's state and federal dollars, that needs to continue. Following up on what Matt said, a workforce. It used to be where are the jobs, now it's where are the workers. And data shows the barriers are childcare, transportation, access to technical education. The city needs to look at its own workforce, anticipating our salary survey by the end of the year. We need to be a leader and a partner, tackling the other barriers for people entering the workforce. We have a great community-led strategic plan through Imagine Pittsburgh that is showing us how to create a quality, livable community for all ages. We need a community development corporation. This is a separate nonprofit that can access funds that the city can't. It has a lot of flexibility and ability for these initiatives to take place. We started down that path in 2019. We really need to get back to it. And we need to develop a CDC, a Community Development Corporation.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sachs.
3 things. One, making sure that our finances are well in the city. I think I was the first person to ask questions at a budget hearing in 9 years for the city. So just being more transparent, making sure, not that there isn't, but just making sure that the public knows what's going on in our budget well. I think there's 2 problems that kind of correlate a little bit. We have a crime problem in this city. The website Neighborhood Scout, which uses our local data and federal data, listed that we are only safer than 5% of the cities of our size in the U.S. Our property crime is 41.25 out of every 1,000 citizens. National average for our town size is 21. The Kansas average is 23. Our police force needs help, and we need to find a way that we can support them well. Honestly, I think something that correlates with that is our homeless situation that we've got going on. I would love to see something like Water Gardens or the Forge that's in Joplin come up to the city, present itself, and be able to plant here in Pittsburgh and show us how to maintain that and go on. So that not only are we giving a hand out to the homeless, but we're actually giving a hand up. I know most people, we've all said economic development. There's been a lot of competition between new business and the loyal local businesses that we've had. I would really like to see those loyal local businesses be pulled up and actually see how we can help them a lot more. I want new businesses, but I think it should not necessarily take precedence over our loyal businesses that have been here forever. I also shout out to the Pittsburgh businesses in this city that worked that we haven't worked with in a while. They're still growing. They're awesome, and you guys are the heartbeat here.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Mr. Nacarado, top 3 priorities over the next 3 years.
Thanks, Blake. Well, I'll list those really quick, and then I want to ground those a bit. Workforce and labor is a significant challenge. In fact, it is the largest threat to our existing businesses. I hear it over and over again as I speak to them. That's a significant challenge. That embedded in that is childcare, housing, and many other things that have been mentioned. Infrastructure, increasing and ensuring that we continue to grow that. The truth of the matter is that we need to grow our population as fast as our economy is growing. Our economy has outpaced the growth of our population. We also need to ensure that the benefits and the blessings of all of this progress is accessible and there's opportunity for all and not just a few. So that's a focus. I want to ground all this in saying that without vision, none of these priorities matter. And the truth of the matter is over the last 7 to 10 years, we have embraced an incredible vision for this community that is rooted in the idea of instilling pride and progress and opportunity for all. Imagine Pittsburgh 2030, which I've had the blessing of being on the executive committee for almost a decade now. Has been something that has helped to give some concrete focus. And in fact, what we've done with regard to housing has been a direct result of that work, of that group. I want to thank them for that work. But now we have to address childcare. If we're going to help support workforce, we have to address childcare. Mr. O'Malley is completely right, and everyone else, I think we all probably agree on that there are too many people who have to make the decision between whether they go to work or whether they stay in Pittsburgh or whether they come to Pittsburgh based on whether or not they can have a safe, affordable place for their children. So we have to focus on that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Nacarado. Mr. Sigley.
If you look at the surveys of cities under 25,000 that have been done numerous times, you find out that the top 3 priorities are tax, finance, and budget, number 1, economic development, number 2, and infrastructure and transportation, number 3, public safety and crime comes in number 4, and innovation and technology thereafter. I think the first thing we need to do is identify the strategic needs that matter most to our citizens. I've been getting all kinds of questions, many of which I cannot answer because I've not sat on this particular board of this commission. So I don't have the insight that some of these folks do. However, there's an obvious need for social services in the city. Childcare is one of them. Increasing the ability for students going to school here to speak, who cannot speak a good English, to learn to do that, probably a secondary program of some type. We need to look at public health. We're not in a health crisis at the time, but I would echo the fact that a number of people have told me that crime is increasing in Pittsburgh. Therefore, we need to either increase our public safety people or come up with some other mean to control the crime, which will only increase in time. Education and job training is very important to growing a city. Actually, we've grown 461 people in the last 10 years, in the last decade. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sigley. And Mr. Height.
Thank you. Well, I don't have a list of specific priorities. I don't have 3, but what I do have is a belief that I'm running, if elected, to represent 20,171 of our Pittsburgh citizens at last count. I believe that I'm one voice for them, and I believe that all of the things that the other candidates brought up are all very important to not just this community, but every other community. And crime is a big problem. The things that go hand with that are mental health, addiction, homelessness, and any number of other problems. All those things need to be addressed. All of them can't really be fixed locally. That's why it's important to partner with our county and our state and even our federal partners on this to try to find a way to do that. So what I hope to do is, if elected, is to continue what I've been doing for the last 33 years, is listening to the people, listening to all the people of the community and seeing what they want. Obviously, Imagine Pittsburgh 2030 was a great project, I think, locally to get some ideas for the vision and the future. You know, those were housing, economic development, public wellness, infrastructure, education, and marketing. And I do believe that, you know, those are great things to work on, in addition to addressing the needs that come before us as commissioners. And I don't think it's up to us to have agendas coming into this. If elected, like I said, I will try to be a voice for all 20,171 of our citizens.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Height. Our second prepared question will be answered first by Mr. Fields, and the question is this. In a crowded candidate field, As I mentioned, we have 7 candidates for 3 spots on the Pittsburgh City Commission. What unique qualities or background would you bring to the Pittsburgh City Commission that make you the best candidate?
Well, we're all unique. Of the 7 billion some people that live on this earth, we're all somewhat unique. Everybody's a little different. I bring a lot of experience, street experience, education as well. I have no agendas. There's no vindictiveness in me. I'm not against anybody or any area in town. Every place in town deserves the same street, the same safety as anywhere else. And that's important for all the cities, all the citizens in town. I'd like to see the police force enlarged. Everybody would like to. But this is not a local issue. I have 2 businesses next to the Lord's Diner. I seen a bus with Oklahoma plates come in and unload 7 people right next door to the Lord's Diner. They get off with their boxes, their sacks, and they're looking up at the hotel best. They had no idea in the world where they were at, and the bus drove off and left them. That's how you take care of your homeless or your mental illness. One way. That license plate, they didn't try to hide the name on the side of the bus. When you provide all of these things, you're going to have homelessness, you're going to have theft, you're going to have these things. I have things stolen and broke up quite often down there at Frisco Event Center. I'm just across the street from some of that. I'm thrilled the Lord's Diner's here. We need these things. It's in the wrong location. That's one of the things that needs done. There's a lot of things to do. Pittsburgh is doing well. It isn't perfect by any means, but it's doing very, very well. You look at southeast Kansas, it's doing better than any place in the area around here. And it's going to do a lot better. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. McNay?
Thank you. My work in Pittsburgh has afforded me the opportunity to, I feel, to have a really solid understanding of the strengths of and the opportunities for our community. What do I bring? I bring experience, leadership experience with governmental functions and responsibilities. And as I mentioned before, through my work at community health and various community activities, I do bring partners together to solve problems and create systems, such as expanding childcare through my work on the Family Resource Center. But maybe a better question, no offense, Blake, is what do I believe are my responsibilities as a commissioner? I think several people have mentioned transparency. We do need to continue to provide avenues for our citizens to have input, and I think we can get back to town halls and imagine Pittsburgh, which created that comprehensive plan. But a commissioner, you got to do the work. I have a broad reach in the community, and I feel that I understand the interconnectivity that goes towards solving problems. In order to fully understand the decisions that we're asked to make, you need to do the work. You need to understand, how does it affect the workforce? How does it affect the budget? How does it affect our goals and our aspirations? Okay, the red card's coming. I'm going to stop.
Thank you, Ms. McNay, and no offense taken. Mr. Sachs, what unique qualities or background would you bring to the Pittsburgh City Commission that make you the best candidate?
So like I said, I'm 5th generation education, 1st generation in special ed. I give to ed education, which means I get to challenge students that are the best and brightest, and they're way smarter than I am, but I get to facilitate their dreams in that. What's unique in my role is when we talk about these students, we meet in teams with parents, teachers, admin, counselors, school psychs, and when the students are old enough with them, to make a plan based on that student and what's the best for that student. When we plan what's best for the student, it's not what's best for myself or Greenbush or the teacher's schedule or the school itself. It's what's best for that student. And so we look at the problem and we solve it, and we make our recommendations, and ultimately the parents and the students have an opportunity to weigh in. What makes me unique for this position is not only the people I'm wanting to do, the only people I'm wanting to do this for is for the citizens of Pittsburgh. I have no fly in the game, nothing in the hat besides I'm 32, have 2 kids, and I want to serve Pittsburgh well. I want to sit a problem down in front of commission. I think this hasn't been done in a while, where the problem's right in the middle of the court and we get to sit and talk and actually construct it and problem solve and have critical thinking go on in the front of the public. You as citizens should want and expect that everyone up here is up here for their own not up here for their own personal gain or to help any company or organization out, but that they're here up for first as servants to the citizens that will fight for your personal freedoms as well as work to make this city better for you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sachs. Mr. Nacarado.
Okay, thanks, Blake. I'm trying to remember the question, honestly.
What unique qualities or background
Yeah,
would you
sorry.
bring to the Pittsburgh City Commission?
Should have wrote that down. No. I have been very fortunate in about to begin my 15th year back in Pittsburgh and working for Pittsburgh State University. I've been blessed to be in roles wherein I've been able to focus on advancing this community. My entire career here has been focused on building a better Pittsburgh. And so when I decided to run, it had to be for something and not against something. There's no shortage of those out there, voices that profit off of dividing us and tearing us apart. What I've learned in almost 15 years of working to help advance this city, whether it's through the Plaster Center or the Block 22 or the Joint City University Advisory Board or a unique approach to economic development or securing the farm show or the Lord's Diner, is that these things don't happen through division, they only happen through unity. They only happen through forward together, which is our motto as a community. And so I feel like my uniqueness is that I've been able to be in the room and be at the tables where these things have been discussed and be committed for 15 years to building the best Pittsburgh possible, and doing so through not division and not trying to bring out teams or what lines we might draw between us, but instead to say we're all on one side of the line, which is we're all from Pittsburgh. We're all from this place. We should be all for this place. And we should never let the divisive national politics or otherwise separate us from that very central focus as a community. It's the thing that built this place. It's the thing that will continue our progress into the future. And I'm proud to have been a part of some of these things, and I'm looking forward to, whether I'm elected or not, continuing to work for Pittsburgh.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sigley.
Yes, sir. I have 52 years of experience dealing with human beings in every form, in every capacity you can possibly imagine. I also mentored nearly 700 young men while the advisor for a local fraternity at PSU. I've commanded troops, an entire battalion of troops in the middle of a desert. I think that all of these things add up to understanding human beings. People need transparency, and that's been echoed a number of times here. One of the things I found out when I was in Saudi Arabia, in command of the hospital, that if I didn't have a weekly meeting with my staff, my people, rumors abound like crazy. And that's true of a city like this. If you don't open the doors and let people in and have them look around, pretty soon you start getting rumors, innuendos, and opinions that have no bearing to the city or to the people on the city. So I would say that I've held a number of positions on the medical staff, to include the chairman of the Board of Trustees, at the hospital, the Children's Advocacy Center, and numerous other activities in the city. That's good.
Okay, all right. Mr. Height.
Thank you. I think each of us up here brings a unique set of abilities and perspectives to benefit Pittsburgh. I've always been in local government, always worked for local government, had the opportunity to work for 3 different elected officials as sheriffs. So therefore, because of that, as an employee, you're taught to be a good steward of the public's money. So I have experience firsthand with being a good steward of the money as an employee. I also served on government boards. I've recently, a year ago, was appointed to the Attorney General's Crime Victims Compensation Board. It's a 3-person board that awards financial restitution to victims of crime all across the state. It's amazing to see the same situations that we're faced with firsthand from that perspective, as far as what other communities are dealing with crime and violent crime. I've served on numerous boards, Sunrise Rotary, YMCA, Big Brothers Big Sisters. But more than anything, recently through this campaign, I had a person tell me that they believed that because of my background, I bring a unique experience to the people of Pittsburgh, in that I've seen both sides. I've seen the good and also the not good, the desperate times of people in our communities and our regions. So I think that would help assist me in this role if elected.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. O'Malley?
Unique qualities. Well, for starters, I have never liked the way money influences elections, and so I chose to not accept any donations for my campaign. It was a risky decision, quite possibly a stupid one, but it is a decision that I'm willing to die by because if I'm elected, I won't owe anyone any favors. No political groups, no businesses, no individuals. I'll just work for the people of Pittsburgh. Also, I am more than just ideas. I have a bias towards action. I'm extremely active in our community. I've been volunteering regularly in Pittsburgh since I picked up a Meals on Wheels route while still in college. I am an active current member of the Pittsburgh Noon Rotary Club, Pittsburgh Beautiful, Our Lady of Lourdes, the Crawford County Community Coalition. I'm the incoming president of the Pittsburgh Area Young Professionals and a 3-year active chair of the county's Food Policy Council. Being this involved has given me countless chances to not just listen to what other people have to say, but to actually do things about it and actually make progress. Lastly, I have a proven successful history of working well with people who hold different views than I do. I've already had conversations about this race with Mayor Munsell, Commissioner Brooks, Darren Hall, almost every single person up here right now, just to develop the kind of relationships and rapport needed to make progress on difficult challenges and make this city better for everybody. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have time for a couple of questions from our audience tonight, and again, thank you to Jonathan for screening these. Our first audience question will be answered first by you, Ms. McNay, and it addresses an issue that we've already heard several times tonight, but I think that also illustrates how important it is to our community. One of the issues facing working parents and guardians with school-aged children in Pittsburgh and throughout the country is ample, quality, and affordable child care. What role should the City Commission play in addressing this issue, and how would you go about finding a solution? That's a long one, so let me read it one more time. One of the issues facing working parents and guardians with school-aged children in Pittsburgh and throughout the country is ample, quality, and affordable child care. What role should the Pittsburgh City Commission play in addressing this issue, and how would you go about finding a solution? 90 seconds.
90 seconds. Well, I'm proud to have been on the board of the Family Research Center for 20-some years. It is very difficult. The center is a model in our community, in our state. It's the largest, one of the largest child care centers in the state of Kansas. And recently, there has been movement in expanding child care, and this just isn't a city issue. It's something that we have to work on together. The barriers are that a child care provider cannot make money with infants and toddlers, and you'll see that at the wait lists at all child care centers. So what does this community need to do? We need to develop some mechanism to be able to sustain child care providers for taking care of infants and toddlers. And that's also going back to what I mentioned earlier about having a community development corporation. There's money out there right now for child care. And hopefully, you know, regardless of how you feel at the national level, there may be more money. We need to have, as a community, a plan and the flexibility to be able to access those funds, to be able to create sustainable child care. And there is a lot of activity going on to that point. You may have seen an article in the paper. Dr. Eustace is working on something. The center is working on something. There are other individuals out there. So right now, it's encouraging.
Okay, thank you, Ms. McNay. Mr. Sachs?
Make this pretty quick. What role? I think we should facilitate the conversations between businesses, between daycare providers, between any ways that we can source the money. But at the same time, I don't think the city should be running anything. How do I go about it? Getting people involved, going and talking to people. That's the best way to get involved and be a hearer and listener to what the needs are. I have 2 little ones. Luckily, we have daycare close to Girard where my wife works, but it was a battle to get that a month before she went back on a maternity leave. And so for us, yes, it's important to do that, but I think we need to work with the key people and also leave this as a private matter, help with some of the finances, help facilitate some conversations, but also I don't think the city needs to run anything in that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Nacarado.
Thank you, Blake. I agree with Mr. Sachs on the notion of the city not running any childcare. That said, while my bias is toward private solutions, I think that free enterprise is the way that we resolve a lot of our problems. A lot of our gaps have been resolved that way. That, but at the same time, I'm not ideological in that. I'm pragmatic. I'm practical. There are times when government needs to get involved. I think we have a revolving loan fund, which is funded through economic development sales tax, which would make sense to consider some investment there. I'm proud and happy to see Dr. Eustace leading a private solution opportunity. I was proud that we could get Pittsburgh State University to sign on in support of that. The notion of getting employers in this community to subsidize seats or slots within childcare is an innovative approach that has not yet been tried in Pittsburgh. I think that what her plan has laid out, it seems very innovative, and it could be the kind of thing that we need to push the entire game up in Pittsburgh. The relationships that I've developed over the last decade advocating for Pittsburgh State and for Pittsburgh, whether that's in the state level, the county, or the federal level, to secure funding, to secure resources, I could leverage those relationships that I have spent a decade cultivating and working on, improving the track record for Pittsburgh, and I would leverage those to help ensure that whatever gaps in funding are there, that they could be filled, whether that be on the county level, the state level, or the federal level, and I'd be committed to finding that and supporting innovative solutions such as that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sigley, what role should the Pittsburgh City Commission play in addressing the child care issue?
Before I answer that, I would like to echo Mr. O'Malley's thing. I have not taken a penny from anyone because I always felt that if you take the king's gold, you do the king's bidding. So with that, I would say, and I'd like to echo what Don McNay said, and that is we need more child care in this city. I can't tell you the number of mothers I've seen over the years who would like to be in the workforce but cannot be in the workforce because there's no place for their children. Consequently, we have jobs going wanting in this city. All you have to do is walk up and down the streets and see the number of need help signs. And how you get that, and it always boils down to money. It always comes down to money. So if we can get the grants, if we can get the people, if we can get the organization together, the city commission or whoever it takes, let's do it. I think it's tantamount in this city that we do this for the people. There are so many folks who need help. You know, we have 27% of the city is below the poverty rate. 27%. That means 1 in 5 people are below the poverty rate in this city. You'd never know that walking around, you know, as you walk around, but they're here, folks. They're here, and we need to help them. We need to help them with childcare. We need to help them with jobs and training, and get the workforce going so that we can develop and increase the size of our city, because it's not sustainable at the present time in the modern world.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Height.
I think it's an issue that the community needs to address as a whole. I don't think it's an easy fix. I don't think you can just go find the money to go put up a building and staff it and, there you go, you've got your child care problem fixed. It's much bigger than that. I think the city commission could possibly look at some sort of a child care task force, if you will. Get the experts in the field in the same room, try to figure out if there's federal dollars or state dollars to help assist with the building of that location, if it's a brick and mortar type facility, or you speak with your community groups around and find out what their suggestions are to help fix this issue. It is a community problem. It's not just a city commission problem. But I do believe we need to be open and be a vessel to start that conversation and get that ball rolling with some sort of solution for the child care problem, because it is, at 14 and 18, our children aren't, that's not a problem anymore, but I do remember very well the waiting lists that were, the parents have to endure and try to figure out what they're going to do so that they can still go out and make a living and pay the bills and make ends meet. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. O'Malley.
I mean, I've lived this one, guys. It was about halfway through our first pregnancy when we were like, oh dang, we're not on a child care list yet. Lincoln was almost 9 months, a year old before we got in. Like, my wife had to quit her job. I'm a 37-year-old grown-ass man. I had to move in with my parents. I don't make a lot of money. I could not afford to maintain my household. With Dylan, we wisened up a little. 3 months before we even decided to try to get pregnant, we got on the list at the center. It was still 4 or 5 months old he was before we could even get him in there. We got really lucky and had my sister-in-law watch him. She wasn't ready for that. She's got 2 kids of her own. That wasn't a good situation for her. I don't know all of the answers to this, but I mean, I'll be darned if the next generation of young professionals has to deal with what I had to deal with. It was awful on our family. I do know a lot about this. I know that there's a lot of spots over 18 months. There's a lot of different places. So we definitely focus on infant and toddler care. IP 2030's had community conversations about childcare. The chamber and the young professionals have been talking about doing some more of this. Let's do it. So I don't know all the answers, but I know I'll work on it. Like I said, it's an economic issue, a growth issue, and a family issue. Elevate it, prioritize it, figure this out. We have to. It's necessary for Pittsburgh.
Okay. And Mr. Fields.
Thank you. All the comments are good, and since Dr. Sigley and Matt both said they didn't take a penny, I haven't either. I have small plastic signs because I hate the plastic, because that's not what we're talking about. The daycare is needed. It's not new. It's been around. I raised 5 children, had them all in daycare off and on. It's not a new issue. It is a giant issue, and the grant money, every city, Chicopee trying to get the money. I don't care how small the city is, so it's limited. It is a major problem, or it would have already been fixed. It's not easy. It is financial. It's quite expensive. I don't know how some people, it is cheaper to stay at home than pay the child care in many cases. So it's a big issue. Hopefully, the city of Pittsburgh can't do it. Chamber can't do it. City commission can't do it. This is a national problem. As Pittsburgh is growing and growing and growing, and more jobs are here, more housing here, 5 housing units going on. More and more jobs there's a lot of jobs right close by, going to be coming soon. So it's a big issue. It's not going to go away. It's going to take a lot of effort from a lot of people. But also remember, we got a lot of elderly people in Pittsburgh that don't want to see their taxes raised to help do something else. Their kids are raised, yes, but they also have a dog in this fight, because it'll be a bit of a fight to get done. But it is certainly needed. Thank you.
Okay. Our final question from the audience tonight will be answered first by Mr. Sachs, and again, you all will have 90 seconds to answer this question. Given that serving on the Pittsburgh City Commission is not a high-paying, full-time position, how would you prioritize the needs of Pittsburgh citizens and the city itself over that of your full-time position? Given that the commission is not a high-paying, full-time job, how would you prioritize the needs of Pittsburgh citizens and the city itself over that of your full-time position? 90 seconds, Mr. Sachs.
Well, I'm lucky enough that although Greenbush is in Girard, it doesn't have much hand in the city and voting on. As far as prioritizing Pittsburgh, yeah, city of Pittsburgh comes first. If I'm on this board, if I'm lucky to get elected here, honestly, if Greenbush had something come up in front of the commission, I'd recuse myself and say, sorry, that's my position. I need to be backing out of that career. Why? Because the citizens come before my work does. And so I'll do everything that I can as far as information for them. But honestly, if it came to a vote, you guys need to be able to vote on that without somebody that is in that career field. So I would prioritize citizens over my career when it comes to this panel right here.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Nacarado.
Thanks, Blake. First and foremost, I will prioritize my family over my work and over this. And that's something I had to learn the hard way, I'll be honest. I need to mention my kids, Jude and Nora, because I'm guaranteeing my daughter's watching this and going to critique me later. So, I will prioritize my family first. But I also will say, where I am blessed is that I've been able to grow a job and a career focused on Pittsburgh. I might be getting paid by the university, but the truth of the matter is my focus is Pittsburgh, and it always has been. And so this is just a natural evolution, it feels to me. It's another role that I could take on to help advance our community. So as I'm thinking about prioritizing things, I'm not worried about my day job. My day job really is about this community, and so that can be what I do at night too. I will prioritize my family first, but I also will say one of the beautiful things about the work that I'm able to do, and I would continue to do on this commission, is for them. it's the reason why my wife allowed me out of the promise I made to her 20 years ago when we got married that I would never run for office. The only way I got through with talking through her with this, and we made the decision together, was that this isn't about running for office. This isn't about what's next. There is, as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing next. It's this place where we decided to live and to work and to raise our children. And what we want to ensure is that our kids, your grandkids, our kids, all have the choice to stay in Pittsburgh or come back home to live and work and play, and don't have to be forced into a false choice that they have to leave this place to be successful.
Okay. Mr. Sigley.
I would say ditto. And also, as long as it doesn't interfere with my fishing time. I'm retired. I can devote whatever time it takes. I'm not limited by anything. My wife thought I was insane for doing this, but other than that, I would devote all the time necessary to do the research, to do the work, whatever it would take. I love living in this city. It's provided for us a great life. We could have lived anywhere in the United States. I could have practiced medicine in many other places, but I came back home where my children could see grandparents and aunts and uncles and get to know them through the years, and it's been great for them also. I will attempt to better the city in any way that I possibly can. Whatever time it takes, I devoted my life to service to people and to the country, and I would do the same thing with the city.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Height.
Well, I'm a public servant. I don't know how else to put that. That's what I've dedicated my life to. That's what I'll continue to dedicate my life to if I'm elected to this position. My family is very much accustomed to juggling things around as things come up. In my previous employment for 30 years at the sheriff's office, we're used to dropping things at the drop of a hat. Plans change. I've had people ask me, "Are you going to quit your job at Pittsburgh State if you're elected?" Well, no, I can't quit my paying job for a city commission job. So we'll make it work. I promise I wouldn't be doing this if I weren't going to give it my all and put my best foot forward for the community. This is not about me. This is just another way of serving the public of what I've done for 33 years so far and continue to do. So this is not a new concept to have someone from, I'll use Pitt State because that's where I'm employed at. We've had previous people serve on the city commission from Pittsburgh State. If there's something that puts Pittsburgh State and the city of Pittsburgh at odds with one another, I would certainly step back and recuse myself. But, I'd like to think that more times than not, the city and Pittsburgh State are working together on things rather than being at odds on things. But that's certainly a possibility if that were to come up.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. O'Malley.
Would you repeat the question, please, Mr. Benson?
Yes. Given that serving on the Pittsburgh City Commission is not a high-paying, full-time position, how would you prioritize the needs of Pittsburgh citizens and the city itself over that of your full-time position?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, reshift things. So my job is very flexible. My boss learned real early on he does not have to babysit me. I get my work done, I do a good job, I kind of make my own schedule. So when it comes to a lot of daytime things, I'll be able to make them, and that means when the boys go to bed, open up the work computer a little bit. I've listed off a lot of the things I'm involved with. The needs of Pittsburgh's residents are already my priorities. I'll just be on a different side of a desk now. I don't stop working. It's why I'm so dang skinny. I won't even sit still. I can't even sit still. My wife's just always wondering, when are you just gonna relax? I have to do something. There's so much to improve. And I have ideas and I can make connections, and so I'll just keep making things happen. Might mean I have to work some weekends. Might mean a few less rounds of golf. But yeah, just reprioritize, be an adult about it, make it happen.
Okay. Mr. Fields.
Thank you. Well, like a couple others here, I'm retired, and I retired early, which makes it very good. I have a lot of time. I do own some businesses in town. I own the Frisco Event Center, which my wife runs. I'm the head janitor there anymore, which is a pretty good position to have. The Fun Zone is a thing for families and children in Pittsburgh that was badly needed, and it's doing better. The terrible thing is it's Saturday, Sundays, Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays. So I've got a great manager. I have 4 Pitt State students, all young women. You can't call them girls, all young women. 2 of them are reliable. That's pretty good, I'm told, this day and age. Got a couple high school kids that work, and they're really good. So it's easy to do. I enjoy working. I don't watch TV. I'm not going to shoot anything. I do fish. I go to Mexico. I go to Canada, Alaska. My boys are up there. My children aren't here. My grandchildren aren't here. I do have a daughter and 1 grandson here. And other than that, I have lots of time, and I enjoy work. That's what I've always enjoyed, and I still enjoy it. I like serving Pittsburgh. We're in Pittsburgh because we want to be. I was gone 30 years, a little over that. We came back because we wanted to. Dad lived here. Dad lived there. Come and live in Idaho and up above the Salmon River, and you can fly fish all you want. Dad, come to Washington. You love the Smithsonian. I do love it. But Pittsburgh's where we belong. I have 2 in Minnesota. This is where we want to be. I'm here because we choose to. There's still not enough shoe stores to suit my wife, but that's improving. So we're here because we want to be, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. And Ms. McNabb.
Thank you. You know, Larry and I have the advantage, we've been on here for a bit of time, so you know what it looks like. You know how we approach being a city commissioner. Similar to Sean, Community Health Center mission is to improve the health and wellness of our community. So every day on my job at my employer, we're working for Pittsburgh in our various ways. And that makes it easy to be able to do what I need to do as a city commissioner. Everything is kind of embedded together. And that's great. And as I said before, my employers have always been incredibly supportive of any endeavors that I have taken in terms of being elected position. So I will just continue to do what I've done for the last 5 elections, 16 plus 4 years. And that is integrating my work life with the responsibilities as an elected official, and they always have complemented each other very well. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, and thank you again to the audience members that submitted those questions. We'll now transition into closing statements. Each one of the candidates will be afforded 2 minutes for your closing statements, and Mr. Nacarado, you will give your closing statement first.
Thanks, Blake. Thank you all for being here. Thank you those who tuned in live, who will tune in afterwards, as Blake said, in weeks and months, and however many times you want to rewatch this exciting exchange. I also want to thank the rest of the folks that are up here. In the almost 15 years that I've been working in community development and focused on building Pittsburgh, this is the most candidates I think we've ever had for city commission. And on one hand, that's a little terrifying, right, as a candidate. But on the other hand, it speaks volumes to how far our community has come. We're in a place now where you have 7 individuals who are willing to put themselves through this gauntlet, not just the 2 incumbents, but 5 others that range in age and experience and uniquenesses. As Mr. Fields said earlier, we all have our uniquenesses, but one thing I think we all have in common, I trust we all have in common, I know we do, is a commitment to this place and a willingness to put ourselves out there to make it better, to continue to improve at all times. And so I actually am very heartened by this. And regardless of what happens at the end of the day for my candidacy, I'm proud of where we're at in Pittsburgh right now. We could be there's so much to be proud of. You could talk about the $500 million in capital investment in 7 years, or 2,000 new jobs, or the highest average FICO rating in the history of this community, the largest growth of the middle class that's ever been experienced. There's all these things we could talk about, but at the end of the day, I love the fact that our community has grown to the point that you could have 7 people willing to do this, and so many behind them, supporting them. Almost 11 years ago when I was president of Young Professionals, and now I could barely be a member. I guess Dr. Mark Johnson is still, but this is what we focused on. We focused on the idea of growing. And there were 3 votes in 2011 that changed the trajectory of this community. Those 3 votes elected Michael Gray. And when he was elected, and the Young Professionals got behind him and supported him, those 3 votes changed the future history of this place, because that is how we got Darren Hall and Jay Byers and the rest of the city management team that has grown this place, that has focused on this. And so thank you to everyone. Red card came fast.
It did. Mr. Nacarado, thank you. Mr. Sigley, 2 minutes.
Would you read the question again?
Closing statement, taken anywhere you want.
Okay. I I feel the community has a lot to offer. It has a lot to offer retired people also. We should encourage, at least I think we should encourage, and anybody I talk to, I always tell them, come and look at Pittsburgh wherever I'm traveling. It's a great place to live. We have all the water you can possibly want. We have great fishing and hunting. We have plenty of room. We have housing. We have everything necessary to make a really great community for both our retired, our working people, our labor force, and mostly our children. You know, years ago when I was driving off of a ferry into Norway, there was a sign that said, we do not measure our wealth in diamonds or gold or any other tangible evidence. We measure it in our children. So I project that the best thing we can possibly do is to do everything possible to educate our children, to take care of them, to nurture them, so they will stay, they will develop businesses, they will become future citizens of Pittsburgh. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Height, 2 minutes.
Well, I'll just start by saying, when I saw Patrick O'Brien was going to vacate his seat and not run again, I thought, that would be a great opportunity to try to give back to the community and serve on this board. I had no idea 5 people plus 2 incumbents were going to think the same thing. So I think it's a great opportunity, and like we've already said, and I've said before, I think we all have a very unique perspective and bring unique abilities to this race. I'll go back to what several people, when they heard that I'd filed for this office or for this position, was, I took an informal poll, because half of them would say, congratulations, that's great, you're wanting to do this, and the other half would say, and I'll keep it clean, have you lost your mind? And so it quickly started to go 80-20, have you lost your mind, to the, great, I'm glad you're doing this. So my point to that is I spoke to some friends early on about this, and I said, why does it have to be that way? Why does wanting to serve your community and serve on a city commission, why does that garner that question from your friends and your relatives and your neighbors of, why aren't we all doing this? Why isn't everyone in the community doing this? Obviously, not everybody can, and we don't need, more candidates but in this race. But in the future, why don't we all get involved? Why don't we all do what we can for our community? Whether it's serving on the city commission or serving on a volunteer board, get out and get involved with the community. It's our community. It's not my community. It's our community, and that's what we need to do moving forward. We need to keep that. We can't forget where we've been. Pittsburgh is a special place. It always has been, and I truly believe it always will be.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Height. Mr. O'Malley, 2 minutes.
So I've known for some time now that I wanted to run for the Pittsburgh City Commission and serve in this way. This year, more groups, more people sort of asked me to do it, so I took it seriously. And then I asked the only person's permission who I needed to do it, and that was my wife. And she said, Matt, just do it. If you don't do it, you're just gonna get involved in something else. Like, just do it. And so I want to thank her. Lacey, I know that you are at home watching right now. Hi, boys. I want the whole world to know that I love you very much. This campaign has taken a lot of time, and I really appreciate the sacrifices you've made so I could do this. I want to thank Mr. Benson and the Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Riley, the Morning Sun, City of Pittsburgh staff, especially our police department, for hosting and organizing this forum today. We've got a lot of great candidates this year, and I think it's going to be a tight election. Listen, I don't want to be special. I just want to serve. Pittsburgh is my hometown. I was born here. I was raised here. I will die here. I am so Pittsburgh, I have fried chicken grease in my veins. I was a bleacher creature at Pitt State games. I swam in strip pits that I shouldn't have been in. I know what an 1106er tasted like. I love Pittsburgh. I want future generations to love it as much as I do. I want your children and your grandchildren and every branch of your family tree to look back at the decisions that Pittsburgh made in the 2020s and be very proud of them. I hope that voters can tell that I just want what's best for Pittsburgh. I want us to grow but not forget the people who already live here. I want us to bring in new business and industry, but make sure that the local businesses we already have are placed on the pedestals they should be on. Pittsburgh, I would be honored to have one of your 3 votes on November 2nd. Let's grow a brighter future for our city.
Thank you, Mr. O'Malley. Mr. Fields?
Thank you. Unlike Matt, my wife doesn't know I'm running. And tonight she's at a quilting club working on a quilt, and I haven't told her yet. So one way or the other, it won't bother her much, but that's true. So I care about all of Pittsburgh and the citizens, the rich, the poor, the fat, the ugly, the skinny. We're all put our pants on one leg at a time. We're all the same. We're here because we want to be here. And as I get a little older, I care more and more and more about sustainability. You hear it all the time. We got way too much plastic in this world. Every one of us in here can do without a whole lot. And would be willing to do without stuff to help our children and our grandchildren especially. This world is changing we live in. We live in a great place. Is Pittsburgh perfect? Of course not. Are anybody up here perfect? None of us are. Nobody on this earth is perfect. I make mistakes and so do you. But don't come in here as a commissioner and think you're going to be a do-gooder or a do-badder, because you're not going to be either one. I worked for a man named William Neal Doremus for a long time, and he'll tell me once in a while, don't be a do-gooder, Larry, because you don't know what the outcome's going to be. And he'd give me the old little story. It said, kindly let me help you before you drowned, said the monkey as he kindly put that fish up a tree. What he thought was doing good, but it didn't do the fish any good. And we have to be careful what we do as a city commission, as a city, as a county, as a state, and our federal government, because in spite of them, we still do pretty well. So Pittsburgh is fortunate. I'm glad to be part of Pittsburgh. I would like to serve one more term. That's what I say, one more term. And I think you can stay on any of these boards too long. Any board. You don't need to be on there and think it's a career. None of us are smart enough or morally correct enough and straight enough to make every decision right. So let's do the best for all citizens of Pittsburgh, no matter who gets elected. And I'm proud to be a member of Pittsburgh. As I said, we came back here because we chose to. We could have lived elsewhere as well. Thank you, citizens of Pittsburgh. Thank you, Blake.
Thank you, Mr. Fields. Ms. McNay?
Thank you. The past 18 months, I've experienced the character of our community, both personally and professionally. We care about each other and we care for each other. That was evidence when my husband died, and it's evident on how we collectively responded to the pandemic. We worked to keep the most vulnerable citizens and our kids safe. Not everyone was sold on the COVID mitigations that we did. But here we are, 18 months later, masks optional in schools. We provided transparency on the status of our virus. We established a county task force that worked to support the county commissioners. The district and the city threw together in 4 months an internet system that supported families. These things just don't happen. We have a firm economic and fiscal foundation, and right now there's a collective and proven success on entities working together continuously, not just when it's easy, but when it's hard. And I think, as everyone else has echoed, this is a really exciting time for Pittsburgh. More now than ever, I feel that we have the will to really make some significant changes and improvements. Child care, the dilapidated housing that Matt talked about, health and safety. And I'd like to be a part of the next chapter, and I would appreciate your vote on November 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Sachs?
Well, Matt, I have a story about my wife too, but it goes back 2 years ago. I was approached by a couple people to run, and we were pregnant with our first child, and she looked at me and said, "Are you crazy?" And the second time this came around, I was able to talk to her, and I made sure, because we were pregnant with our second at this time, and she said, "Yeah, I think you can do it." And one of the things that she told me, she says, you actually listen to people, you actually want to solve problems, you actually want to sit at the table and discuss things, and even though you're probably not right, you will work it out, and you will actually come to a consensus that's for the betterment of others. And truly, that's what I want to do. I truly think that freedom is something that we're faced with in the city, not only in the city, but in the state and in the country right now. A lot of personal rights and personal freedoms are being depended on. I got the honor to stand with several people at Via Christi protesting the mandate that was going on for the hospital. to actually stand with them and say, hey, no, you have a right to choose. You have a right to have that freedom to choose something. I believe in our citizens that they have the right to come in public input and tell us we're doing terrible and tell us we're doing good. I believe that they have a right to call us up as commissioners if we get on and scream in our face. We may not like to hear it, but that may happen. We also have a right to reach out to our 20,000 plus citizens and say, look, we're not all smart here and we need your help. And I think that's something that we need to lean on. We have experts in different fields here and experts in different areas that we can lean on in our city. And that's what I want to do. Let's solve some problems, let's get some critical thinking done, and move Pittsburgh forward.
All right, thank you. I hope you'll help me give our candidates a round of applause. Thank you all again for being here tonight and for your being willing to serve the residents of our community. Again, thank you to Jonathan Riley and the Morning Sun for your help tonight. Thank you to the City of Pittsburgh for hosting us. We'll remind everybody Election Day is November 2nd. Get out and vote, and I hope you have a great evening.